Hello there, I'm Maria from the Richard Simple Living. It's Tuesday and like I said I'll come on today and perhaps do something a bit educational, but I decided rather than doing something that Sean was doing, I'd come across this book. I've been helping clear out a relative's house, and as I did so found an old school book. It belonged to my uncle. A peek under the cover, and it looked like he said he was in year 10. Well, I'm not sure like what your school years were where you come from. Obviously if you're not in England there'd be different school years anyway, but when I was at school, after you left primary school you started with your numbers again, so you'd be year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it'll be your sixth form years. But now they carry on in numbers. They leave year 6 at the little school, and then they're in year 7, which is equivalent to what Sean would be in now. So basically the book that I've come across is equivalent to the year that Sean is in. So I found that really interesting. I'm just going to adjust you a little bit. Excuse me. I think I've normally got you a bit higher up. I feel like I'm right on top of you, or you're too close to me, or I'm going to be in your face too much, I think. So is that a better? You get used to it, don't you? I'm all over the place. So yeah, as I was saying, it belonged to my uncle. He was in the first year at secondary school, which nowadays is equivalent to year 7. And it's his biology book. The first thing that I remembered, it struck me, is when we were at school, when you first started secondary school and you got given your books to bring home, teacher always said your first homework was to cover your book, whether it be with brown paper, as this one is, or wallpaper. Mine was always in leftover bits of wallpaper. So yeah, that was always your very first homework assignment. Take your workbook home and cover your workbook. And that reminded me when I saw this that's been covered in brown paper, but obviously has come off over the years. The year of the book, I must tell you that as well, is 1960. So I wasn't even born then, in 1960. His first entry was on the 23rd of September of 1960. So I'm assuming school holidays and term times were pretty much similar then. I think they just left school earlier. I think my mum said she left school at 15. So they just left school a bit earlier. And so it would have been straight after. I'm going to bring it down just a fraction. I just want to get you right, you see, so that I'm not lifting the book in the air. I'm able to show it you at a decent height without having to stretch. So yeah, the book, it's his first year at secondary school and it was 1960. And another thing that struck me is the writing. How nice the writing was, sort of all curled, you know. I don't know if you've seen old-fashioned writing in like your grandparents, great-grandparents, how they used to write sort of years and years ago. It was always joined up and it was always nice and fancy. I mean, my great-grandparents' writing, I could never achieve writing like that, and my writing would never look as good as that. It's beautiful, all curled and nice. But here, it's like, it's got the sort of old-fashioned look to it, with joined up and sort of curled, but it's coming into a more modern era where we don't write as neat as they used to. So I can sort of see it changing, if you know what I mean. I think you'd have had to have seen how your great-grandparents wrote to sort of know what I mean. But old writing, old style writing, how it was. But yeah, so it's neat, it's joined, but there's pages where it's a bit scrawly and the spelling's slipping a bit and it's sort of looking a bit more modern. So yeah, he was doing biology, the study of all living things. Teacher has marked some of it And I noticed with the teacher as well, they seemed to have started off quite good at the beginning of term, marking things, but towards the end there was big chunks missing. Whether he was never give his book in for marking or what, I don't know, but it hadn't been marked all that well. Another thing I liked about it is the lines, the margins. They've drawn their own margins. Nowadays, most pages like this come with the already printed pink margin, don't they? He's penciled it down with his ruler, and I can remember doing that at school. And he's got his dates inside the margins, which is another thing I can remember doing. In fact, I'd forgotten all about it till I looked at this book, and it just took me back. Because, I mean, I started school in the 60s, but I wasn't in secondary school in the 60s. I was later in the 60s when I started school. But we were doing margins, and we did write our dates inside the margin. But yeah, it's a lot different than the books that I've seen today. It's quite nice to see the difference, actually. And especially like with Sean being in the same year, seeing the sort of things he covered in biology. Now, as you know, I've been doing the Collins workbooks, and I've been thinking they're really good, but looking at what my uncle was doing at the same age, I'm thinking, this is the sort of thing I was wanting to do. I feel like some of this sort of stuff nowadays would be looked on as babyish for secondary school. That's the sort of stuff they're doing in primary school, like they're rushing them straight through, and then they're doing other stuff and a lot not so nice stuff in the sciences now in secondary school. But it's like all the stuff that you think of in your childhood and all the stuff around you, nature and everything around you, the things you want to absorb into, they rush it now. They just go over it, and to them more important things are, well, I don't want to get into debates about that, but I'll just say there's sex education, what they cover now, you know. It wasn't done like that in these days. And I would rather be in these days, which is a reason why I was homeschooling as well. But I don't want to get into debates like that. I just thought it'd be nice just to show you this, because it's quite a nice find, really. So yeah, he was doing about seed dispersal. And like I buy the printed books, they don't do nothing like this in any of the Collins books at all, nothing at all. I mean, this week we're doing science and some friction and motion, and Sean was bored out of his skull, and so was I, and you know, and not bothered about it. So I thought, oh well, we'll leave that. But I like, because even though going on Twinkle's really good, because you can do what you want to do, and even though, like some of the stuff they was learning here, they seem to bring up for younger years on Twinkle, but the beauty of that is you can just do what you want to do. You don't have to go to what their age is, you go to what their interests are, so, or what their abilities are, you know. So I thought, well, I did actually have a look on there about plants and things, and all the pictures are printed and you just write the parts in. But what I liked about this, as you're seeing as I'm holding it, is he's had to do all his own pictures. And to me, I thought that was really neat. But can you see what the teacher done? Although he ticked it right, because obviously the work itself was right, but he put untidy. He classed that as untidy. And I look at that and think, oh wow, Sean doesn't do anything that neat. But the teacher has classed it as untidy. How times have changed, eh? How they have changed. But I'm showing it Sean, and I'm saying, you know, maybe we should be a bit more like this. Because, I mean, when we were at school, we did our own little pictures, but mine didn't look that good. Mine were probably unrecognisable. So, yeah, I thought it was really good. So that's pictures of his seed dispersal and by wind and things like that. Seeds, hairs, willow herb. Because he's mentioned plants in there, I think, I haven't heard of them for many years. And I like these books. This is a book I could do looking out for. I mean, don't know if they make books like this these days, but you see how, like, as you turn over each page, one page is lined and one page is plain. And I like it, it's quite thick as well, so it will take colour, you know, ink and colour on it. It's quite thick, and then you've got your writing side. And I quite like that idea. I mean, does anybody know if you can still buy books like that? I mean, nowadays you can buy everything, but not everything's as good as it was, you know, so can you still get books like this? So yeah, you're still doing his seed dispersal, and he's got his, like, then he's got by wind and by animals. And everything's self-drawn and everything's written by hand, and it's ink pen, as you can see, good old ink pen. They're quite neat. Animals with backbones and birds, and then he went on to human teeth, and he's done pictures on that, because like I say, nowadays I'd go into Twinkle, you print it off, you print the picture off, and you just write what it is next to it. But I really do like the idea that he's drawn it and put it in, because I think if you're drawing something, you're sinking it down more, aren't you? You're knowing it more, remembering it more than just getting a picture and sticking it on, right, that's done. But if you're actually drawing it, you're thinking about it and you're sounding it down more and learning it better. I think so anyway. But yeah, I really like that. And again there, he's done more pictures, animals with backbones, and I love how he'd done a reindeer. That's the sort of thing Sean would do. I actually showed this to Sean and says, oh, your uncle's just like you. I said, you'd have done a reindeer. She said, I would. And he'd done exactly the same thing. I said, you both like Christmas. And he's done his frogs and his snake, really colourful. And then he's gone on down there to write about each one. So it was really good. Done more about the human teeth and which they are and what they are. I wish Sean would do something like this. This sort of thing I'd like doing, where you're actually drawing it and that. Because she can draw, but she only does these country humans. And I say to her, with a bit of practice, you can do this. It's just the patience. Oh, I can't be bothered sort of thing, you know. She could do all her own pictures, but she can't be bothered. But the country humans, she does in great detail. So she can draw. And then it goes, I enjoyed this bit, reading this bit as well, about birds, different kind of birds. And I was actually discussing it with Sean this morning from the book when we was going through it. And different kind of beaks and the shapes of the beaks for catching their food. And different birds having different shaped beaks for how they get their food. And I thought that was really interesting. And Sean had never really stopped to think about that before. So, yeah, that was really good. And we discussed that and we read what my uncle had put. So he's actually teaching Sean. He's died now, bless him. But, you know, his work is teaching Sean. So then we go back to plants. Seems to go between animals and plants quite a bit. But we got a nice picture of a horse chestnut twig. I thought that was really good, and the different parts of it. Because I like it because it's got a lot of different plant things in it, and schools don't really seem to do a study of plants. I mean, they do plant life, how plants exist and how they grow, etc. But they don't actually do studies of different kinds of plants and all the plants there are, which is quite nice because that's what I want to do is Sean learn about the world around us, life learning really, and nature and everything around us, make her more aware of everything, and you know, that's just more writing. So he's starting to get a bit messy here and started crossing things out. And I noticed when he first started it was nice and neat, but he's getting a bit scrawlier. So maybe it wasn't his favourite lesson and he was bored and just scrawling. Because I mean, not now, although I think his ink pen was playing up a bit looking at it. You see all the blodges and things. I think he was having a bit of hassle with that. But again, he's talking about the horse chestnut, describing the horse chestnut. And then it goes on to do a lovely picture of Hazel catkins. That's quite nice. And I remember us studying the nature garden at school, the catkins, when I was at primary school actually, because they had a nature garden and they had loads of trees and all the catkins and everything, and I remember doing that at school. He's got the male and the female of them. So, and parts of a flower, he starts to discuss parts of a flower. Trouble is, I think he must have had wet ink over there and it's gone through down there. Different parts of the flower. And again, section of a daffodil is done. Section of that. I think how nice how they go into detail, not just the plants in general, but different plants. I mean, like when my mum, them small, and this is my mum's brother's book, but when they were small, they knew all the different plants, and they had plants that I'd never heard of. And my mum says they had fruit trees, all the different kinds of fruit trees you can imagine, and everything was just done. They were almost self-sufficient in those days because they lived out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's not so much classed as the middle of nowhere now because people have cars, but in them days they didn't, and there's no shops or anything around them. But they were so aware of everything and they learnt so much. I was going to have got out my box and I forgot I was going to show you something after. I might see if I can nip up and fetch it. Thinking of my grandparents. Then they've got pictures of flowers from the side and half a flower. And what I like though, with the information and everything and the pictures, because we didn't have, like, I'm thinking of when I was at school, we didn't have booklets handed to us and you open the page, find your answers and copy it out like you do today. It was one teacher, no assistants, one teacher at the front with the blackboard, and she'd have it written down before the start of the lesson normally. Everything would be written down, what you were going to learn. And she would talk. She would actually talk in front of the class. So you wouldn't watch it on a TV or nothing like that. And you wouldn't pick a textbook and open it and read at your own pace. You sat, you listened, and she actually gave you the lecture on what you were learning. And your information, then the information that you were going to glean from it to do onto your textbook, would be written out on the blackboard. And sometimes as she went, she'd write notes on the blackboard as well. And that was quite good because you just did it all into your book. She'd ask you the questions, or the questions may be written up on the board, and then you'd do it and have to write it out. And I love the style of writing essays. I'm a big essay fan. I like things written in essays, and besides what I always say to Sean, if we're going to write, be in essays, you know, you get so much more in and pack information in. None of this is a question with a couple of word answers. I like essays really. So Sean has got an essay book, and when we're not doing any of these Colin workbooks, or sometimes we deviate from them, we go into the essay book and let's write an essay on. I mean, we've got St George's Day coming up on Friday, so there'll be an essay going on there because she did an essay for St Patrick's Day and St David's Day. So yeah, we've got pollination, more pictures. We've got the pictures of the life of a tadpole, which is something that I'm doing with Sean at the moment. We're going to take her to see where all the tadpoles are, and he's got all the drawings. But you see, I got information and printed pictures off Twinkle. I just printed off and blank paper so she can do all the write-up, because I like the borders on them with little frogs and tadpoles on. But here it's in an essay book. But I really like this. I like the discipline of it all being done in here. But yeah, that's really good. I really did like that picture. It's detailed and everything. And it was actually quite good at drawing, my uncle. It's hard to turn them. And then we've got the life of the cabbage butterfly. That's something Sean will be doing a bit later when they start attacking the cabbages. We'll be doing something on them then. And then he's right up on it all. And the history of cabbage white butterflies. And then we've got a germination of beans, which I've been seeing a lot of people doing lately because I've been planting the beans and children have been doing their own little bean pots. I mean, Sean's been doing beans, and so everybody does beans. If it's not cress, it's beans, or sunflowers, that's another one. So he's done that. Then he's done a chart about animals and plants and different things. But I really like this book with the drawing side one side and the line the other. I mean, something I have to look out for if anybody knows where these things are found. Oh dear, took the middle page out. They are rusting now. They're the clips. Then we've got doing about flowers, and it's done a nice picture of the yellow flag. Now, do you know, as daft as it may seem, I didn't know they did yellow flags, only blue ones. I thought there was only blue flags, and they got the yellow flag. I mean, I'm not sure if I've seen them or not now. I think about it. Do I know they exist or not? Yellow ones. But I definitely know the blue ones because we've had them in the garden. And the other one is a wall pennywort. So, the name pennywort refers to the circular leaves which resemble coins with a depression in the centre. Well, interesting facts he's actually put in. He's also done a rock sapphire and a primrose. He's quite nice at drawing. He says in the old days, and most people think this is the old days now, but he put in the old days under the rock sapphire. In the old days, housewives used sapphire for pickling, and it was regularly harvested. That's something I didn't know. Don't even know what it is. But I'm certainly going to find out. Then it talks about living things, breathing, getting rid of waste, animals. I like his picture of a plant, and I was laughing with Sean saying I like his sun, and he's actually wrote sun in it. As though you wouldn't know what it was. Then we've got cell membranes and things like that. Sean has actually done a picture of these. She did draw it on plain paper, and we put it in a folder at the start of her year 7 when we were doing science. So she had done that. And then he's gone on to write about cells. So we're through now, lots of cells. Hello, Sean. Hello. Reproduction, dividing things we've got. That's a teacher put, print the labelling, so he's missed his labelling off there. Then pages of writing about it. Blank bits and writing. The hydria. And more writing. And on the back of it, obviously when he'd started it's year 7 now, but it was year 1 in our times. On the 23rd of September 1960, he'd had to write his rules on the back of the book. Number 1, each writing page must have a margin drawn neatly in pencil. Number 2, all work must have a date in the margin. Number 3, titles and subtitles must be underlined neatly, a single straight line. Number 4, drawings are to be done in pencil and labelled in pencil. And number 5, all labels should be printed capital letters. And he's done a list of capital letters with small letters underneath, in case you didn't know what the capitals were. But I thought that was quite good how the teacher had them write all the rules out in the back. Although he'd had to go over into the back from something from the previous page. So yeah, that was my uncle's book. Year 1, which is equivalent to year 7 today. Now, there was something I wanted to show you, but I'm not sure where it is. I'm just going to nip and see if I can find it. It's regarding school and regarding my grandmother. I'll be back if I can find it now. I'll be back in a minute. Right, I'm back. What I'm showing you is a certificate. I've got to be careful because look, it's in half. It belonged to my granny when she was at school. I'm going to see if I can laminate. I thought about sellotaping it, but over time sellotape goes brown and ruined anyway. So I thought maybe I'll put it in the laminator and laminate it. It'll preserve it better. But what it is, it's my granny, Elsie Assent. See that from school. Unfortunately, the only thing I don't know is what year it is. It's got the date, June the 30th, and she was in class STD3, which I presume means standard 3, and it's a report for the term ending June the 30th. Attendance 111, absent none, and late for none. Her conduct was very good. Subjects showing good ability was composition and needlework. Now that's what I liked best about that, needlework, because they don't really do that in school today. I know when I was in secondary school they did some sewing, because I remember making a skirt, but they didn't do needlework as in we didn't sit down and do embroidery and things like that, which is quite nice things to learn. So she was competent in needlework. Position in class 3rd. Don't know how many was in the class, but she was 3rd. And general remarks. A very good worker, very intelligent, and always does her best. And then it was signed by the head teacher and a class teacher. I can see Dee Stevens was the head teacher. I think it might say Salt. Somebody asked Salt, I think, for a class teacher. Why has Sean got her hand in the air? Yes, Sean.
I don't want to interrupt your little history speech.
What do you want to ask me?
I was going to say, when you were on about like needlework and stuff.
Yeah.
When we did, not Roman the Conqueror, William the Conqueror.
Yeah.
We could either like sew a horse or a like sword.
Oh yeah, like the tapestry. Doing tapestry.
I did a horse.
Really good. It's good to do things like that. So yeah, I thought I'd just show you that. My grandmother's, well, I presume it's a school report. Means I'd found my uncle's book and I'd got this. But I'm going to have to try and repair it. I'm going to have to carefully put it into laminating paper and laminate it, because it's just going to get lost otherwise. And it's got a mum's name on the back, Mrs. Hassant. Thing is, it couldn't have been a sealed envelope with having a mum on the back. It was just folded, so they obviously trusted her, but then she'd got nothing to hide anyway. She'd obviously a good student. So that is quite old, but it just doesn't say what year. That's the only downside. I mean, trying to think what year my granny was born in. 1907. My granny was born in 1907. I'm not sure what age they left school at in them days. Excuse me. So she would have been 10 in 1917. So I don't know if they left school. I know my granddad had us. I've got a report from my granddad leaving school as well. He had to have permission to leave school below 13, because 13 was the leaving age. So maybe it was the same for my gran, because my granddad was born in 1904 and he had to have a special permission for leaving school. I have probably got it in a little pile in front of me somewhere, but I'm not sure where without going through it all. But he's got a slip of paper saying that he'd been given permission because he'd got a job to go to, and he was 12 years old, but obviously not far off 13, so he could leave and go. But this wouldn't have been secondary school. I don't know when my granny went to secondary school. I don't know if they're all in the same schools in them days, but this is the small school, the village school. So if she was younger than 11, we are going to be talking sort of up to, what, 1917, 1918 at the latest. So it's quite old. It's over 100 years old, this piece of paper. Definitely, that's Sean undoing chocolate drink. Definitely 100 years old. But it is going to have to be laminated. So I'll leave that out, I think, and I'm going to laminate that now, get the laminator out, rather than put it back in with all my documents from my grandparents and that. But yeah, I think little things like that are quite nice. I'm glad my family save things like that because it's quite good. And you can see what sort of students that my family were, and I'm thinking I couldn't have took after them. It must be my dad's side, not my mum's side. So yeah, I just thought I'd show you that today. Yeah, Sean's been drawing. She wants me to show you a drawing. Well, she's half finished it. Well, over half.
I've really got 5.
For art, she's been doing more of a country human. She's concentrated on empires. So they're all the empires. And she's just got the top row, as you can see, to finish off. And then she's going to do an essay on empires. She said it'll take me forever to write about each empire. So I suggested maybe if you just write about empires in general, what they are, how they come to be, and what makes an empire. So that's what she's going to do when she's finished that. She wanted me to show you. She doesn't like being on the camera, but she likes me to show you her things. She's smiling away here. So yeah, I just thought I'd show you that today. It's ended up being a lot longer than what I thought. So I just thought it was just quite nice to have a look back, years gone by, how schooling was. I know we're homeschooled and that was in school, but I think now it makes me think how lucky we are to be homeschooling, because we can actually take a more relaxed look at things, which is how it appeared to be back in the day in school. School was a more relaxed thing, and they learned about things around them, nature, and they learnt more like that, you know, than the things that they learn today. So I just thought it'd be nice to show you, just interesting really. And I just thought I'd show you my grandmother's report. Wasn't much of a report. Nowadays they seem to write all the same thing and just stamp a name on them. So much so that on one report, my granddaughter got somebody else's name on hers, but all written out the same. They just stamped the wrong name, given to the wrong child.
I got an excellent in PE.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that then for today. Our homeschooling, we've decided at the moment that we're following the new routine. In the mornings we're doing structured work. With this morning we've done geography, English, maths and reading. That's it. I was trying to think of the other one, reading. And in the afternoons, after dinner, I'm saying to Sean, right, this is your time, pick what you want to do. So structured work in the morning and sort of her own self-led work in the afternoon. So she's been doing her drawings, as I've just shown you. That's what she's wanted to do. It took her a couple of days.
I'm also learning about Sweden and the Great Northern War.
Oh, she's learning about Sweden and the Great Northern War as well. That's her topic she's learning herself in the afternoons. So that's what we're doing at the minute. So next time I shall see you now will be, not sure, Thursday, Friday. We'll see what's happening. It'll be at the end of the week. So if you press the bell, you get a notification when I've